about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not really.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's finally time for the next Romancelandia Monthly. If you're wondering why it's late / at a weird time, last month I was traveling when this was supposed to go up, so I couldn't get it done in time. And I asked on Instagram, I asked on Twitter if y'all wanted a mid-month with October and September news, and then we'll talk about that in a minute, or what you wanted me to do, and everybody voted for the middle of the month, so here we are. So first things first, Romancelandia for the rest of the year. The biggest note I have for you is it will be happening. It's just not going to be at the end of the month like it's always been because of things I have going on. And the holidays coming up, and it seems to be, we're gonna knock on wood, kind of quiet right now. So we'll see what happens. If something really big happens, I will pop on and do a live or something to cover it, or a quick video. But for now, I'm gonna try and take a little bit of a break because of reasons, which we will talk about in a minute. The other note I want to make is I did make a new tier for my members. If you want to support Romancelandia, I have a $1.99 tier now where you can just sign up and like there's no real benefit. You're just supporting the content I make, like specifically around Romancelandia, and you will get a little thank you in the description box of every Romancelandia video, but you won't get it on all the videos or early access or anything like that. It's just a chill time. It's just an option I wanted to offer because after I thought about it, I was like, oh, I should do that. So if you're interested, do that. If not, no worries. There is no pressure to be a member on my channel. It's just there if you want. And you get a little extra perks. Otherwise, nothing has come away from my channel with the membership. So let's dive in. I think we're gonna go with the bad thing that happened and the annoying thing that happened and the thing that still makes me very angry. And then we're gonna just basically have good news almost the rest of the way out. So let's dive into the Monster Romance Anthology. Oh boy, so literally I was on my trip when this happened. I was literally on a trip when this happened. In early September, we had a tweet from Violet Gates Press about the Romance Anthology, and they just completely removed someone who helped create the anthology and is the reason the anthology exists, or was going to exist, because I don't think it exists anymore. So originally RM Virtues, an author, a Black trans author, tweeted about the idea for a romance monster anthology. And people were like, oh my gosh, I love this idea. We should do this. I really want to do this. I want to take part, blah, blah, blah. Violet Gaze Press, which is a small publisher, said, absolutely, let's do it. Then they said they were going to partner with RM Virtues, to the point at which there are tweets where they said, if you have any questions about submissions, message RM Virtues. And the other thing I want to note as I go through these tweets is there was a lot. So I did have to kind of curate the list of what I shared because we would have been here for hours. And I personally do not have the attention span to edit a video that long. And I'm sorry. Here are the tweets from RM Virtue. I don't know how to ease into this, so I'm just gonna say it. My involvement with the Monster Anthology is done, and I will no longer have a story featured in it. I have felt for a while that I was being pushed out, and when I tried to speak up, I was framed as the angry Black man and guilted into silence. My influence was used to garner interest, and yet I was told all I did was tweet, and I was made to feel I didn't deserve credit beyond that. It's a tale as old as time. Black people of color authors have their work co-opted, and when they try and set a boundary, they are made to feel like they're the problem or that they're being difficult. I won't stand for that. I wish all the authors the best of luck, and I will still support you in any way that I can. Love y'all and thank you. Then Violet Gaze replied, RM, I think this is really unfair and untrue, and we spent hours talking about this last night and how I didn't realize because there was no suggestion that you were unhappy, and I messaged you every step of the way. There are receipts showing this. And then RM says, as there are receipts showing that you tried to guilt me and literally said, what credit do you think your tweet requires beyond that? Multiple people have seen them. I did admit I should have set boundaries beforehand, but what you did yesterday was not okay. And literally the origin tweet, which I will put up here about the anthology, is right here. Violet Gaze offers for authors to back out of the anthology, and that's fine. And then Violet Gaze just starts replying to people who are commenting on this around the fact, you know, they had receipts that they were always going to do an anthology like this. This wasn't just their only idea. But then there are also people rushing to judgment to cast RM Virtues in a bad light, which is something we see again and again when Black people or people of color in general say things with backup and like evidence, they start being like, oh no, that's not what happened. Y'all need to sit down and listen and stop rushing to the defense of white women. Like, everyone's saying, like, you know, they remember the tweets. Violet Gaze, you know, again, starts replying to book bloggers and all kinds of people about how they have receipts and they'll show you, and he's wonderful and talented and they're a huge supporter of him, and they're apologized over and over. It seems like majority of people pulled their submissions. I also want to say that Violet Gaze Press has been in trouble before, specifically around the fact that they had like their KDP account supposedly unjustly revoked. We don't know the full story there. Obviously, I'm not Amazon. I don't know. KDP is how independent authors publish their books through Amazon. And had Romancelandia rally around them to help them get their account reinstated, because like supposedly they had like 2 accounts and they said they didn't. It's a whole thing. I don't know, a little suspicious. I don't have the full details on that. I wish I did. But something else Tasha L. Harrison pointed out is if a large part of your business plan is to scour the timeline and lift ideas, you don't have a business plan. At best, you're a leech. At worst, you're doing low-key predatory shit that makes you suspect. If your business plan is, I saw a tweet from an author of color or an underrepresented author and I'm gonna reach out to them and be like, hey, let's do this, and then fucking just throw them out the window after the fact, that's not a business plan. Then we have what I think is probably the most delightful part of this, that one of the submissions, Lena Mitchell, like literally went and complained that because of RM Virtues, her story wouldn't be published, and that she had no other option now, and that she's never gonna be a published author because, you know, one person, again, a white lady blaming a black man for their things, but like so many people from this anthology pulled and self-published. So many. And then Sunny D. Soto, I think, had really relevant tweets to think about when we talk about monster romances, and I've seen some other things around disabled people talking about this too, is that honestly, so I'm gonna read you her tweets. She said, honestly, RM's tweets were what made me excited about this call. BIPOC people tend to see monster stories differently, as we're not too often portrayed as angry monsters by society that ignores the horrors we face and our struggle to find our own joy within it. I'm sad my story no longer has a home, but better that than a home that it seems couldn't appreciate it and the message it was trying to tell in the first place. So sorry to RM and all the other authors involved. Basically, everyone came to RM's defense and said, fuck you, Violet Gaze. And then Violet Gaze tweeted an apology to RM Virtues and cancellation of the anthology. They claim they're owning their mistakes and that they have, you know, that they apologize, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna put it up here. I'm not gonna read their apology word for word because I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. Also, link back to RM calling them out, which I do feel like is like good, but I still just think like this didn't have to come to this, like in any capacity. Like Violet Gaze Press as a business should have been able to handle this and course correct much sooner and seen what was wrong with their ideas here. And a lot of authors also pulled their books in general from the anthology. Like that, even though the anthology was canceled, they pulled their books before it was canceled. I'm going to link for y'all in the description box a link to the Boobies podcast, who asked for a list of submissions of authors who were submitting to that anthology's self-published works. So you can go check that out. I have read quite a few of the works that were going to be in the anthology this month already. And so far I've been thrilled with all of them. So I highly recommend you check them out. And you know, if you want, I could do a feature where I like do a video where I talk about a bunch of them that I've read. So also an option, just let me know what you'd like to do. And I just be wary of shitty publishers, to be honest with you. And I think at the end of the day, this just comes down to some real shitty behavior that people think they can get away with and aren't gonna get outed. But if there's one thing in Romancelandia, we always find out who's the bullshitter. So you gotta watch out. Then let's talk about something exciting, which is that we got the date for Munro from Kresley Cole. It's coming out. So January 25th, we will have a Munro from Kresley Cole. My plan, my dream, is to get a hotel room and lock myself in that hotel room for like 48 hours and read this book. That's all I want to do. I have no interest in anything but reading this book, and I cannot wait. January 25th cannot come soon enough. I'm going to set up a little countdown for myself even. Like, y'all, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So let me know if you're also excited for Munro, because I know a lot of us have been waiting a long time for this book, and yeah, I just can't wait. Then I want to talk about something a little different. So I haven't really talked about a lot on this thing. And I know Jess over at Jess Owens has talked about this some with her book community. I've been doing this for 2 years in December, and obviously only covering romance news because I have no interest in anything else really. But let's talk about social responsibility, how I cover what I cover, and like the mental load and work of doing this. Obviously the mental work for me to do this is much different than if I was a person of color. That doesn't mean things still aren't damaging sometimes. I am a queer woman and some things are really, really harmful that I come across and I'm like, ooh. One thing I want to talk about though is that I try to be sure, so I can't cover everything because at the end of the day, I have to pick and choose. Like there are too many things often for me to do it all in 1 month. So I do try and pick and choose to the stories that I feel like are the most relevant to the community and the things that need to be elevated more with my platform. That usually means badly behaved authors or publishing houses or a big issue with a book. And I try to limit covering like people, and when I do, I try to be really cognizant of how I cover it and what I talk about. I mean, we saw that when I had to cover things around Jess from Peace Love Books and Charles from Books on Stereo, who are two people I would consider friends or myself friendly with. Like I don't want to have to drag people for being shitty, but I will like call out people when their behavior is bad because that is something you have to do. But like it's really stressful. I don't know if people understand how heavy it can feel sometimes to be like the only one standing up to tell people like, hey, what you said was like not cool. I try to do this in my real life. I try to do this all the time whenever I'm able to be like, hey, that's not okay. Because if I can't do it and I can't set that example, I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to cover these things in Romancelandia. I also want to talk about like social responsibility. So there was a big call out that happened on Twitter during like right around the Monster Anthology stuff. Yeah, like literally right after the Monster Anthology, some authors vague tweeted about how somebody's tweets and aesthetic and all of this stuff was very similar to a person who has been basically blacklisted for pretending to be someone they're not. And I think it's like, so you may or may not remember Brooklyn Ray / Jupiter Weiss, and they had like a bunch of other names. They were like pretending to be Latinx in some capacity, or yeah. So they were pretending to be something they weren't, and they were a bruja and all these things, and turns out that they were not anything they claimed. And it was a whole disaster, and they were like preying on people and gaslighting people and abusing them. It was a lot. Jess covered this in a book community. I did not cover it because this was not a romance author. Well, a romance author came to the forefront recently. Freydis Moon is her name. And some big name authors started accusing her of being Jupiter, or her. And this turned into, honestly, it just was weird. It felt like, hey, your account's too new and you follow too many people and they followed you back already and this, that, the other, and how could you not be this person? And you have, it literally got so granular. They were like, here is a slightly similar background, 2 backgrounds on this person's Instagram. And I understand that people are on edge from what happened with that person. But I think that this is where I think about social responsibility and accountability. Sometimes you're better off not to subtweet and to say things like that and put out accusations without enough grounds. And I don't think that there was enough proof at the end of the day, besides very weird correlations happening, to try and say that this was that person. And at the end of the day, they shared what their real name was and was like basically forced to out themselves to people of who they really were and not have the protection of anonymity in their romance writing. Like, that's not okay. That's super not okay. So that happened. There was like a loose apology. It was not great. But this is what I mean when I talk about like, how do I pick what to cover? Could I cover this in depth? Yes. Do I want to bring more attention to a person of color who just got attacked for being accused of being someone that they seem to not be? No, I don't. I would rather just say like, you know, this was a fuck up and it wasn't great. And I do think that like the authors accusing her of this were very out of place to do so. I think they could have kept it to their group chat and made their own decisions before they shared it, because again though, whisper networks can be damaging, and the targeting of a woman of color or a person of color often happens in these whisper networks in unjustified manners, and this is one of those. So yeah, That literally, like, they accused her of having a similar Canva aesthetic to to Jupiter, and I was just like, y'all, this is not enough, because Canva is just a bunch of templates most of the time, and there's really only so many options. Anyways, that's it for Romancelandia Monthly. So yeah, I will not be back at the end of November with an update. Probably it'll probably come mid-December or early January. I personally need a break. I have a lot going on in my life. News coming soon on all that. But because of all the things I have going on in my life, I wanted to be upfront with y'all about the fact that, like, I need a little bit of a break. I'm tired. There's just too much happening. And I'm going to keep track of things as they happen, and I will come back to you with a big roundup or whatever. And if something really massive happens, I will be here. I will be here to update you and, like, gather all the data. But I just, like, am exhausted mentally from a lot of things right now. And this is something that I can easily take a slight break from. And I feel like it's okay. I also think that November is going to be pretty chill. Again, knocking on wood. But for the most part, you know, unless it's major, I'm not going to have an update until probably mid-December. I hope you enjoyed this update. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed. And if you don't want to do that, you can leave me a heart emoji, your favorite heart emoji. Mine's the sparkly one and the black one. Shocker, I know. But yeah, leave me those, and I will see y'all in just a few days in my next video. I'll have links down there in that description box. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away.